Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the ultimate podcast for anyone who is ready to live a life with intention and help from spirit. I am your host, Deb Shepard, spiritual teacher, medium, and author, helping you open up to the whole enchilada, or like we like to say, the soul enchilada, so you can truly make your soul rise. So let's go. Welcome back. This is Deb Shepard. I'm here with my dearest Dana.
Hello.
We're here to talk about communication and animal totems. And when you're on a spiritual journey, you start looking for signs in so many ways. People want to know, is my loved one talking to me? What does this mean when this shows up in my life? And the Native Americans and some other cultures have had animal totems. They've been messengers for them, and they believe that the universe God has brought this animal to their tribe to be able to communicate with what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And
or show them signs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see in some of these native cultures, even with Eskimos, they'll have totem poles.
Yeah.
And those totem poles are each of the animals that are for that community as what they stand for.
Like their spirit animals for their community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What I thought was interesting is the one on the bottom of the totem is actually the most powerful. And we're always saying we want to, get up to the top. Mm-hmm. And I would assume that the one on the bottom is the one that carries all the strength. Okay. So I found that really fascinating. And so today I think I know we're going to, but talk about our animal totems and what we've seen and how to recognize them. And when I first started this journey and this work, I was really drawn to the hawk. And I would see hawks everywhere all the time, flying into my car. I even had a whole family of hawks that for 1 year lived in my backyard, I remember. And they would fly very close and sit on my deck. And one in particular, I don't know if it was the mom or dad, but it would come over and even drop, I'm sure it was rabbit or something that they had caught to give their family, and would drop food off. And I remember being gone a couple of times. Yeah. I know. And I'm like, okay, this is just odd. And they'd sit there and stare at me. And when I would be gone, I went to the mountains for a few days. When I came back, they were banging, or this one particular one was banging on my window in anger that I was gone. It was surreal. It was like the movie, a Hitchcock movie.
That you were gone or that you just got back?
I don't know, but it was just like angry at the thing. And I finally called the Audubon Society and I said, hey, this is my story with a hawk. And of course, we live close to a reservoir, so we're going to see some of those animals in nature. And they said they have never heard of that kind of story before, that they had adopted me. And this was during a time in my life I needed to really pay attention to what was going on. It was after my husband had passed, trying to do this business on my own and things like that. I wanted to finish writing my book. And that was just such a strong message for me. And I've always looked for them. You and I are driving and go, there's one. And so anyway.
But it seems like no matter where we drive,
we'll see them.
We'll see hawks.
Yeah.
And I know that they're around a lot here in Colorado and in the Western states.
But even in California and other places we'll see them. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But over the years, things have changed for me a little bit on who was, what totems came to mind.
Well, we even had one, I was just thinking and remembering, sorry to interrupt,
right.
But we even had one fly directly in front of the car one time, right. And we almost hit it. Which was bizarre.
Yeah. So the hawk means, if you're having a dream about a hawk or you see a hawk, it's about the power of vision, intuition, using your intuition daily, focus, leadership, clarity, future planning. And that really makes sense for me because I always am able to, when I'm doing sessions or readings, I'm able to kind of rise above a situation and see the bigger picture. That's what the hawk does. It sees the big picture, but it can dart down to pick up its prey. And I can do that with someone's situation. I can look at them and go A, B, and C to help them very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I know the hawk is used for my intuition. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, that's what the hawk means, too, is intuition.
Yeah.
So I know it will always be one of my totems, but over time we've had other experience, or I've had other experiences. And for some reason, this is before COVID, I kept seeing giraffes. I mean, we're not in Africa.
Yeah, I remember.
And
everywhere we turned, you were like, oh my God, there's another giraffe.
And it would be like, even we'd go to Home Goods and there would be like this 7-foot
giraffe,
sculpture. And I'm like, is that in your face or what?
Right. TV.
You'd
be scrolling on the, Facebook and giraffes would pop up. Yeah.
So that's when there's a message there. And I eventually found in sort of an antique with 2 giraffes basically hugging, because I knew that it was an important totem for me.
And it would have been really funny had we seen a giraffe. Actually, we went to the zoo.
Yes, I do have a story about the zoo.
We went to the zoo to see the giraffes too.
Yes.
And
if you're a person, there's some people out there that are listening that like animals more than people. So if you're an animal lover, this would be something for you to do some searching on. And, I always say dive deep and really understanding more about what these animals mean to you. But giraffe is about self-acceptance. Yeah, I can't say that. Can you say it for me?
You were tongue twisted.
I know.
Self-acceptance?
Yes, thank you. Self-love, neck is prominent. It's my voice, opening your heart, grace, peace, communication, and perception. Now, this was before COVID, and like right before COVID. And this really makes sense about what was going on, especially about communication and perception, because of what was going on in our world. And I get paid for speaking, but that long neck and how that works and how that's how you recognize the giraffe. And then about the zoo. Our zoo is really a beautiful zoo. We hadn't been in a while. But what stood out for me that day was the rhino, the dad rhino. I don't know if it was a black rhino or not, but that sucker was huge.
He walked out and you could feel the earth shake. He was that big.
And he was from a distance, and he looked prehistoric. I mean, that's how big, but he was obviously...
He looked like a dinosaur, for sure. He was that big,
And he really drew me in. One of those things I just went, wow. And so, of course, I had to look it up. And it means stamina, sturdiness, substance, strength, and resilience. They will try to avoid confrontation unless it's inevitable.
Oh my gosh. That is so you.
If you've listened to other previous podcasts and stuff, I put my foot in my mouth a few times this last year or so. And I love to avoid confrontation. I'll hand the phone to Dana anytime and say, please deal with this. And I'm also a Taurus, which is the bull. And both of them are not ones that like to confront unless they're pushed. And that is so me. So I thought it was really kind of in alignment with the bull as well, because Dana says,
I have to be very careful when I approach things. Not that I'm fearful of you, but I know that if I push you, even like, okay, we have to record today. If I push too hard, you're like, no.
Like, I don't have any issues, okay? So I found that very insightful as well. The other thing that the rhino brings out is the rise above prejudice.
Wow.
And so mindful for what's been going on in our world, because you look at the rhino and you are afraid. And this thing is, you think it's going to run after you. I'm sure if you're in the wild or what that looks like, that big horn. But it says that they're really actually very gentle unless they feel provoked. And what we've been going through with racism and prejudice over the last couple of years, the rhino is really definitely that symbol for us to sit back.
It's just more front and center. Yeah. And it's the situation is being brought to light. Yeah. So, that makes sense.
So I thought that was something to be...
Can I tell a zoo story?
Sure, please.
I thought the funnest part and the animal that stood out to me was the monkey that I was carrying the grandbaby girl to Leia, and the monkey kept playing with her through the glass and would hit the glass, and she was like 6 months or 7 months. But they just stared at each other for as long as I stood there with them, and her and the monkey, the monkey kept hitting the glass or coming up to her on the glass and just staring back at her, which was fun to see.
So, which is interesting for the next one, but for monkey, I'm reading this right now. So if you see an animal or have a dream about an animal, you can Google the spiritual meaning of and then put that animal in there. The monkey says, the spirit animal appears whenever you need to let joy into your life. The spiritual meaning of monkey is also, let me put this up, very curious. They do a lot like humans by how they like to connect with their babies and take care of everybody. So that really makes sense. And we call her Little Monkey because she's always climbing on everything.
She is. She climbs everywhere on everything. She's like a little mountain goat.
She is. Maybe that's her totem.
Oh, that's so funny.
One thing, if you want to know too, how do I recognize my totem animal? My mom has collected dolphins. For when people buy her dolphins.
Yeah, and butterflies.
And butterflies. Those are two things. And they're just gentle and beautiful, and they're fun-loving, and that's certainly my mom. You know, she's one of those individuals that enjoys having fun with her friends and family. My sister-in-law has collected elephants over the years.
Yeah, she has a ton of elephants.
Yeah, she does, and she's always resonated with them. What was interesting when I was Googling a little bit more, updating on this, I've always believed that the trunk, if it was down, that was a negative. But what they're saying, that it's not a negative. It means sensuality, good luck, and things like that. But in feng shui, which is what I teach, they want you to have the trunk
up. Okay.
So I just thought that was interesting. And again, when you have this connection with elephants, it takes 2 years for them to
give birth.
So that also could mean for you that there's a 2-year waiting period before something changes for you.
And I love elephants. I think my grandmother...
Well, your desk has elephants on them.
Yeah,
elephants
the desk, the desk has elephants on them, and I have this... I got this a long time ago, actually. I have a wooden elephant with its trunk up, and I got that from my grandmother, I believe. And then I have another elephant, which is a potted elephant. But you said if you put a potted, like if you could put an elephant outside your front door facing towards your front door, and that brings good luck.
Correct. And again, it's all intention.
Right.
So Dana does have a pot. Dana has like 5,000 plants and flowers in her house. So she, of course, has an elephant pot that we can put out in front now and bring us some more energy.
Which is a good color. Yeah.
So those are some things. But what's your favorite bird, Dana?
Oh, well, I love hummingbirds. I don't know what it is. I like all the tiny animals. Like, so, we have a tiny dog, and I'm always looking at those teeny tiny little dwarf goats or whatever. Are they? I think they're dwarf.
If it's a goat, it's a chicken, it's a horse, anything that's miniature.
Yeah, and those miniature Highland cows with the long hair. Oh my gosh, those are so cute.
This is why.
So tiny hummingbirds are just like a smaller version of a bird. They're just,
Well,
it's so fun.
I put some things down. Hummingbirds mean good luck, and it also means enjoy the sweetness of life. The bird is capable of doing all kinds of
maneuvers,
flying backwards. There's not any bird that can fly backwards. And this
so is it like a bug?
And if you've listened to the podcast about Dana's journey, the sweetness of life, I think, is just so perfect about that energy. And the flying backwards, I mean, you've been able to do so many different things in your life. Even though you had some traumatic times, you've never let that define you. And that's really amazing that bird does it. And of course, it goes really fast. And they're always busy. And so, like, when we try to leave the house, I'm the shepherd guiding Dana out to the car.
I have to do 12 things on my way out to the car. If I see something, but it's funny because if I see something that needs to be done on my way, I'm like, I'm just going to do this because I don't like to let things sit. So even when you take the recycling and you leave it in the laundry room, I'm like, it's 3 steps. I'm just going to put it outside, so it's like, I just have to
Did you hear her? She blamed me. It's my fault because I didn't put the recycling in the trash can. But
that's just funny how that's just how
you're wired.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong or right with how we maneuver. It's like I always tell Dana I'm the Taurus. I sit in the field for a long time until they need me. So I don't do a lot of movement. So what I want to do is help people figure out how to find their totem, or a totem as a messenger for that period of time.
Okay.
For instance, even when I saw the rhino, this was before I went into another hospital visit, and about the resilience and things like that. So sometimes you may get an animal coming to you or be in your view to let you know what's coming up and to be prepared or pay attention to, or how do you, like the confrontations. I don't like confrontations. I just cracked that. That was hysterical for me. I was like, oh my goodness. And I read it before, but I read it again for this podcast, but I just felt it was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I am the biggest person that just says, oh.
You will procrastinate,
if it comes
to that, yeah.
So.
Which comfort, I mean, it's not a bad quality. It's just.
I like things to marinate, I say, but
marinate,
I also don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction,
right.
which I've had a tendency to do, and when I do that, I feel as if I am the bull in the china store. So I know for me, it's better that I sit with something for a while before I respond right away.
Yeah.
So in order to find your animal totem or a messenger, find out what qualities are your superpowers. So if you look at the monkey that can swing through trees, those kind of things. If you're a person that can do all kinds of things, like we're talking with you, maybe it's the hummingbird. So looking at those qualities, what do you like to eat? Are you a carnivore? Do you eat plant-based food only? Do you love the water? Do you love being in the forest? I mean, what is it that resonates with you?
So give some examples. Like of what people, so when you talk about superpowers, I understand like carnivore versus, but maybe some other things that they can tie together with an animal. So for example, if your totem is a bear, what would you say the qualities would be for?
Well, a bear is, depending on if you're a female bear or male bear, but the mama bear you don't want to mess with.
Right.
She's very protective. She or he likes to hibernate. So if you're a person that doesn't really like winter and you want to see the sun out, and that would be, for instance, of you just hibernating. The food they eat, it's more pescatarian. Would that be it? So
I think it depends on the type of bear
they are.
Right.
So you're going to look at what kind of bear they are. But my friend Cindy Barber, Cindy, she was always the totem bear. She always had the totem bear, and it fit her too as well.
Because she was a mama bear.
She was a mama bear, and there's just other things about it. And she would find them and collect them. I remember getting her some items that had bears on them. It was just she was really drawn to, probably because of Colorado and the bears as well.
So I have a funny one. So our son Thomas.
Oh yes.
We always call him. We call him the sloth. Because he can be very fast. He was an athlete. There's a lot about him that's quick. When you are watching him, he'll accomplish something, but it's almost like it's in slow motion. And it's so weird.
And not to be mean. He's not being rude.
No. That's him. He will take his time in movement. And so we call him the sloth.
Correct.
Because he's very methodical about his movement, which is kind of funny, but and so we call Talea the baby sloth. But
and we even got him a sloth blanket.
Yeah.
But you just kind of see those, or someone that goes, you're busy as a bee. We've said these things, you're slow as a turtle. Mm-hmm. So we've had these terms for a long time that we've used to analyze somebody or compare them to someone. And I think, too, it's like there's two other stories I want to share with people, but one of our girlfriends, Kelly, and she doesn't live very far from us, and she's driving home, and she sees a porcupine just walking down the middle of the street.
I'd freak out if I saw a porcupine.
But you're just like, where did that come from? So, to me, that's a huge message for her for that day, and I didn't look it up, but it'll be interesting, too, if I want to read it. But this is a few years ago.
Is that recent?
Oh. No, this is a few years back. And then one night, or one day, one morning, early morning, I was on the way to a radio.
Early morning? What?
I know, for me, it was radio. And the days for radio. And I was on my way to the radio station, and there was a male mallard duck walking down the road, which you just don't see by itself.
Right.
And we have ponds nearby and things like that, but
this was in the street, the middle of the street.
Yeah, and we're in a housing development.
Yeah,
so residential. I'm like, okay, that was weird, but let things roll off my back, like they say for the duck. Well, Dana and I then got home, or I got home, and Dana had found that we had caught 2 mice.
Yeah.
But they weren't dead, and we don't like to kill anything, so we decided...
They were live caught, and we Yeah.
that we decided to take them up to the park to let them go in someone else's house.
Don't think we're weird. Don't judge us.
So we're up to this park, and we're trying to open up. We thought there was only one little mouse in there, but there was two.
What does mice mean?
Looking at the very close details.
Okay.
So I was actually probably feeding the hawks. Was that what I was doing with the mice out there? Take care of my totems out there. Anyway, so we're letting the mice go, and this car pulls up with
a box.
It's my husband and wife and a child with a box of these two baby ducklings, like tiny. I mean, their wings are the size of our thumbnails.
Yeah.
And they were saying to us, have you seen the mom or whatever? And you're not supposed to take them away from there, but I didn't know. We don't know where they took them. I said, well, our vet's across the street.
Yeah, you volunteered us. No,
I did. And so, of course, our vet goes, I'm not taking those things because, she does dogs and cats and probably gerbils or something. I don't know, but probably dogs and cats. And so we thought, okay, well, we have these little baby ducks. And so we named them Fern and Lily after my mom and her Dana's grandmother. And we put them in a box with a warm blanket or warm towel, and we were trying to give them water. And one of them would not stay in the box. It kept jumping up and down.
Yeah,
we thought,
it would jump as high as it could.
And the other one just sitting in the corner going, where the heck am I? Where's my mother? Mm-hmm. And we called around, and we found out that there's a man not too far from us that would take in the stray birds.
Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out we found out that the people that picked up the baby ducks should not have picked them up. They should have left them there because what happens is the parents typically will go get food or what have you, and they will leave their ducklings for a short time. So don't pick up ducks.
Don't pick them up.
Just leave them.
And we didn't know where Mom and Dad were,
but they were handed over to us by people.
So what we did is we found this man that had some rescue.
Yeah, he did
birds,
a rescue
for birds. And we took them there. They were so tiny they wouldn't stay in the gated fence. But they were so excited about seeing
other birds
that they were running around. I'm sure they're going, you're my mother. But again, that's another way of really hitting us over the head. And so the spiritual meeting for these ducks, make sure you don't miss the opportunities it brings and the messages that the spirit world wants you to know. Let go of your emotions and embrace the duck's power. The spirit of the duck has summoned before you to give a wake-up call. You need to take a step back and watch for the symbolism, as it is a warning that you no longer have control over your emotions and require protection. Whoa.
Well, that's trippy.
Yeah.
Well, right around that time, wasn't it? Because this was 2 years ago. Right around that time,
there was things going on.
There was a lot of things going on. And we did need that.
We did. And it talks about self-expression, feelings, balance, grace, and strength. And so, again, it's just a funny way for the universe to go, kind of tap you on the shoulder and go, hey.
What about the squirrel? Remember the squirrel?
Okay, we're going to tell you one more animal story.
We have a lot of them.
So tell you, it's sort of like Dr. Dolittle or... So tell the story.
I'm driving home one day, just around the corner from the house, and in the middle of the street, I see a squirrel. It's laying flat in the middle of the road, but I see it lift its head. And then I see it kind of look around and lay its head back down. And I turn the corner, and I start having this immediate feeling of guilt and something pushing me, go pick up the darn squirrel. Get the squirrel out of the middle of the street. I could not bear to have it lay there. Even if it was injured or something, I didn't want it to get smashed. And I had this issue with it, so I pull over. And this is a busy street.
For catching mice and releasing them in the wild, that
and
tells you.
Picking up the squirrels.
And ducks.
But so I park and I run all the way back over to the middle of the street, and this is a busy street. So I'm like watching this cars roll over this squirrel, and I'm timing when I'm going to run out there and grab this squirrel and run back. So I get it after a couple minutes, and I pick it up, and before I pick it up, it's just laying there like it's dead. But I scoop it up, and right away its eyes pop open and its head looks at me. And it was almost like it had left its body, and me touching it and brought it back, yeah. And then I read about that later, that animals will actually leave their body basically, or shut down before they're dead. If they think they're going to die, they shut down. But anyway, so I scoop it up and I run back to the car with it. It's not moving at all. No, I'm not sure if it's stunned. I don't know, but I have it wrapped in my jacket. And Deb's at home getting ready for a group session. And so I find a box or carrier for it, and I put it in the garage.
Of course, we have animal carriers.
Yeah, but I leave it in the garage because I'm like, well, I'm not going to bring this wild animal, into our home with our animals,
2 dogs and 2 cats.
Yeah. So I go get Deb. I walk in, and I'm like, Deb, I have an issue. She's like, what?
I thought maybe she had a car accident,
So we go to the garage, and I show her this squirrel, and I tell her I couldn't leave it in the middle of the street. So we're like trying to, we couldn't see an injury. We're calling the vet again, our poor vet.
Which is a friend of ours, thank goodness.
And she's like, well, I'm not there, or else I would help. And, at least if it's in pain, I would euthanize it or what have you. But we had nothing we could do. And we had to take care of this group of people who was on their way to have a group session. So
we gave it a little
drugs that we had left over from a surgery that one of our dogs had. And just like a little pain medication, and just kind of let it rest.
And some water.
And after we were done, we put it in the carrier, brought it in the house in the basement so it could stay warm. And Deb went down there and thought it hadn't moved, and thought it was...
Yeah, I thought maybe, and I didn't want to poke it or anything. So I just kind of looked, and I didn't see any kind of movement. And I went to Dana and I said, I don't think it made it.
And I told her she had to deal with it.
But the story's not done. So the next morning,
I go downstairs and I look in there, and there's the squirrel just sitting up looking at me. Like, hello, where am I? I don't know what's going on here. But so I take it outside and I open up the door, and it looks at me for a second, and then I close the sliding glass to let it by itself, and it runs up a tree. A little crooked. It ran a little crooked.
I think it's still in the back.
But it ran up the tree there, and it was gone.
Well, we did have another we haven't seen in a while, but because she had a chewed up ear. And
so what's the meaning of squirrel?
I will. So tell them about, what was the squirrel? That
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. That's what we named the little squirrel, but she was... Okay, it's often a message for us to have more fun. It's all of these. Just have more fun. Don't confront. Yeah. We've been so busy taking life so seriously that we have forgotten that play is essential too. Spiritual squirrel meaning can apply that we must look at practical matters such as retirement, insurance, or even simple repairs. After all, the spirit animal teaches that preparing for the future is a must.
Oh, interesting.
So squirrel, like bear, squirrel doesn't sleep. The squirrel will pack all that food for the winter months, so they're prepared for what shows up ahead. Well, the bear, maybe I'm also the bear. I just eat a lot to get through the winter, but I don't stop when summer comes. It's also when you see an animal, it might be telling you what's going on with your health. So do you need more greens? Do you need to be outdoors more? Do you need to be in water and things like that? So again, it's really reminding you to pay attention to these signs. I'm not going to talk about the story, but there is the guy that was down on Australia, I think, and he was on a beach recently, and an octopus came up and slapped him on the neck. So if you haven't seen that video, please do so.
Google it.
Is that not a message from the universe?
An octopus smacks you in the face.
And leaves big marks. So what I'm going to recommend again is pay attention. What animals are you drawn to? What makes you feel joy and happiness? What does that animal represent for you, and what are their habits? And that's going to help you, again, when you're not hearing those messages, the animals are going to be right there.
So you can almost start with animals that you really like and are drawn to. And that could be a totem animal for you, but also animals that you see, like even a ladybug. The other day, it's freezing cold outside, and we see a ladybug crawl across the sidewalk in front of us.
Of course, we had to protect it to get to the other side so no one else would stop
and step on it.
Now you know we're humanitarians. But it's
yeah.
really fun. Make it fun. And like people will get scared, like, well, there's a spider or there's a snake. Actually, all animals have a story to tell you. So never believe that an animal such as a snake
yeah.
or something that's
a snake crossing your path is actually a powerful message.
It is very powerful. So again, don't get, well, you can get weirded out, but you can also just Google the spiritual meaning of it. And it's another way to really connect with the universe. So
yeah,
share your stories with others and look for the bugs and the animals.
Thank you for joining us. Also, if you like the podcast, please make sure you follow it on iTunes and leave us a review.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spirited Straight Talk. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new shows. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a review. And let's connect. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and to book a session with Deb. Plus, enter to get a free reading with Deb. All you have to do is sign up for the email list and you'll automatically be entered. Just go to debshepard.com. That's DEBSHEPPARD.com.